thank you so much for taking some of your time to learn a little bit more about Explore Bowdoin. My name is Jackie. I use she, her pronouns. I help run the Explore Bowdoin program here on campus. I'm also a graduate of Bowdoin. I graduated from here in 2012. And I'm really excited to share a little bit more about Explore Bowdoin and a little bit about the opportunity that you could have to come visit here on campus. So the way that this is just going to go, the first thing that I want to note is that the live transcript is on, so you should be able to turn on closed captioning should you want that or need that. And the way that the next half hour to 45 minutes will go, I'm going to go ahead and share a presentation, and this presentation will just share a little bit more about Bowdoin. If for some of you this might be your first encounter with our college, and so I wanted to share a little bit more about Bowdoin as an institution, and then towards the end, of course, I will talk about Explore Bowdoin, some of the application processes, and so on and so forth. But a lot of this time will be devoted to answering questions that you may have. So if you do have questions, either during the presentation or afterwards, please do feel free to use that Q&A box. I want to make sure that we're able to get to as many questions as we can. So I'm going to give a short presentation, then time for Q&A, and then hopefully get you all back along your merry way. So with that, let me just go ahead and show my presentation, which hopefully is now showing you. Welcome to Bowdoin College. We are a selective liberal arts college of 1,850 students located on coastal Maine. And so here you can see an image to the left. This brick building is our student union. And then of course, in front of it is a statue of our lovely mascot, the polar bear. Before we jump further into the specifics about Bowdoin, it's always really important to us to start these presentations talking about what a liberal arts college is and how we find our model of education unique. So a small liberal arts college simply means freedom of exploration in your academics. And so our liberal arts curriculum focuses on a broad curriculum that encourages inquiry and exploration before you choose your focus area or your major. Your major, you declare halfway through your sophomore year. So you have plenty of time to try out a couple of different subject areas, take some interdisciplinary classes, and really get a feel for what academics could feel like before you choose your major. We have a focus and pride in our small class sizes and lots of faculty interaction and mentorship. We really try and we really find that our education is as unique as possible and as personalized as possible because of our small class sizes. We pride ourselves on our seminar style classes, which are classes capped at 16 students focused on roundtable learning. And so those small class sizes really emphasize that your faculty members will get to know you. And of course, we're a liberal arts college. We are not a university, and that means that we have no graduate students in attendance here. We're a school completely focused on undergraduate education. Students do primarily live together in a residential community where you receive leadership experience and social experiences and cultural opportunities. And for us, it's really important that students are able to come to campus, live on campus together, eat in our dining halls, and really form that community that we find so important to a strong education. You can study STEM fields and do research. We often find that there's a misnomer that there might not be the sciences at a liberal arts college, but again, liberal arts simply emphasizes the number of fields that you can study. And twice as many graduates of liberal arts colleges do go on to obtain a PhD in the sciences compared to graduates of other schools. So we are offering a rigorous education in a wide variety of areas. Just so that you can place us, that blue dot, of course, up in the Northeast, that's us. We're located about 3 miles from the ocean in beautiful Brunswick, Maine. We do bring in students from all over the United States, and so it's really important to us that that diversity of experiences is well represented here on campus. And the way that students get here is primarily through the Jetport in Portland. This is a photo of the city of Portland. It's about half an hour south of us. It's the largest city in Maine, and it's a really wonderful and vibrant place for our students to go down and grab concerts or food. Portland is half an hour away, and so that's where a lot of students will fly in and out of. And the other thing that I would emphasize is that right off the corner of campus, right within walking distance, you can actually see it off the corner of campus, is a train station with multiple buses and trains each day to Boston, Massachusetts. And so that's our next largest metropolitan area that students will often go to for the weekend to visit. One thing that I do want to emphasize about Bowdoin is our underpinning philosophy to why we offer the kind of education that we do. Our first president, when we were founded back in 1796, noted his deep belief that literary institutions are founded and endowed for the common good and not just for the advantage of those who resort to them. And what this really means to us is that our students and our community is created with a deep intentionality around ensuring that our students understand that the foundation of our education is not just the knowledge that you gain and not just what you learn, but how you learn it and what you go out into the world to do with it. And so our focus on the common good is echoed throughout our classrooms and the way that we teach and learn, in the way that we interact with each other in our community, in the way that we serve our community around us, and the way that we really make sure that our students are gaining some traction with the sense that they're really in a community together. And that means that our education really focuses on collaboration and not competition. It's really important to us that our students learn to work in collaboration with each other and not at all in a competitive academic environment, but instead work together on facing those issues that we know are coming. Just to give you a sense of what the most popular majors are at Bowdoin, these are some of our top majors. Government and legal studies, biology, computer science, and environmental studies are some of our largest programs. Our environmental studies program in particular is one that we're really proud of, both with our location and the resources that we have along the coast of Maine. But 47% of students do declare a double major, and another 20 to 30% of our students declare a major and a minor. So just know that if you are a student who isn't quite sure what they want to study yet, who's really excited by the prospect of studying a lot of different things, that this is an opportunity for you to really be able to explore a number of different areas. And just to give you a sense of what those areas could be, this is a complete list of our academic offerings. It's sort of lovely to look at, although a little bit overwhelming if you're a student who's just really excited by the prospect of joining a college and being able to study what you'd like. But it's a really nice visual on the number of fields that you really could be doing some deep dives into, double majoring, majoring and minoring, or simply just exploring areas that you've never taken classes in. The other thing that I want to emphasize is that our small size really enables us to focus on academics outside of your major and outside of the classroom. We are a top producer of national fellowships, including the Fulbright and the Watson, and about half of our students will choose to study abroad during their time at Bowdoin. Most of our students will study abroad during their junior year for a semester, although of course there are variations on that, including students who will choose to go abroad for an entire year. And if you do choose to go abroad, our financial aid packages do go with you. Sophomore boot camp is a really great opportunity for our students. Sophomore boot camp is a week of intensive work for our sophomores who come back a week before the end of their winter break to do things like interview practice, job searching. They build their resumes, and the sophomores really start to have a conversation about how their academic interests could intersect with what they'd like to do in the future. Sophomore boot camp is a really phenomenal example of how our career exploration and development office helps to kickstart those processes. And then, of course, we have plenty of funded Bowdoin opportunities that include internship stipends and summer research grants for students who are really interested in having those opportunities over the summer, including unpaid internships or just opportunities that we need to, a little bit more of a financial boost. We do have those, we do have that funding available, and all of those comprehensively, we believe, make up that Bowdoin academic experience. Again, that faculty to student interaction is something that's really, really important to us. We really believe that our students should be learning alongside their professors. And again, as a small liberal arts college without graduate students in our classrooms, you get to have that one-on-one interaction with world-class faculty. Every single one of your classes is taught by a professor, and all of our professors are doing world-class research in their fields alongside their research assistants, who of course will come from their students. And so if undergraduate research is something that you're interested in pursuing, just know that a small liberal arts colleges have a lot of those opportunities available simply because of the way that we are designed. I also want to take a moment to focus on student life resources because, as I mentioned earlier, we are a residential community where about 95% of our students do live on campus and stay on our board plan for all 4 years. This is just a selection of the offices that are focused on making sure that students are able not just to transition to college, but to thrive in college. And so these offices are really focused on making sure that students are able to thrive in their whole selves, and everything from health services and counseling services to our offices of residential life and our student activities office. These are all places that are hopefully making sure that students have the support necessary to really join a college community and to contribute to our college community when they do join us. The other thing that I want to highlight, and that some of you may have received emails about, is that we do have a digital excellence commitment that we implemented a couple of years ago as a result of the pandemic. Every single incoming student to Bowdoin will receive a MacBook Pro, an iPad mini, an Apple Pencil, and of course, access to a full software suite. It's really fun to be able to talk about this because we do think it's so important, and it's something that we can absolutely commit to our students. We know that digital equity is increasingly important, and we really want our students to have access to the top technology and the same technology across the board, to know that when you're in that classroom, you do have access to those tools that you can be successful with. So this is something that happens during orientation. It's always fun to swing by and watch our IT department give out 500 MacBooks. But this is something that is really important in terms of making sure that our students do have the tools that they need. All of this might sound nice, but what happens after Bowdoin? These are some of the nonprofit employers of Bowdoin graduates, and these are some of the places that our students are going on to continue to make that impact in the common good, and they're working in public service, in healthcare, they're teaching, and they've joined a number of different organizations. But it's also important to emphasize that our students also do go on to work in the corporate world, and they do work in some of the largest and most impactful organizations in the world. And so I would emphasize that a Bowdoin education is flexible and adaptable, and it helps you be successful and creative and hopefully responsible in those roles. If you're not going into the profit or nonprofit world, but you are instead interested, of course, in more studying, almost 20% of our most recent graduating class went directly into graduate school out of Bowdoin. And these are some of the top graduate schools enrolling the most number of Bowdoin alum. And so just know that our rigorous curriculum, alongside our small class sizes and research opportunities, do prepare our graduates to be successful in these programs right away. Moving right along, do you want to visit the reason why several of you are here? So Explore Bowdoin is an annual event for students who would otherwise be unable to visit or apply to Bowdoin. So we handle all of the logistics and cover the cost of the trip. And you can actually, you can apply for Explore Bowdoin. The applications actually opened in late April, and they are open through August 9th. So what can you expect on this program? So we cover your travel costs as long as you get to your home airport, train, or bus station. These are some of the hallmark This is some of the hallmark programming that takes place during those weekends. Often there's a Q&A with Bowdoin leadership. While you're here, you will have the opportunity to do your admissions interview and to meet one-on-one with student aid folks in case you have any questions about financial aid. You can meet current students, faculty, and staff, and then of course you can see the coast of Maine, attend some application workshops virtually, and you can really meet potential classmates. The best part about Explore Bowdoin is just that you get a sense of what it could be like to be a student here for about 2 days. You'll eat in our dining halls, you'll visit some of our classes, you'll really get a sense of what that experience could feel like for you, and that's what we find most valuable about it, is in all of those moments when you're able to just have those conversations in our dining halls and see what this could feel like. So it is an application process and it is competitive. Here are our program dates that you may have seen in our websites or in our publicity materials. We do offer this program twice. You only have to submit one application, and on that application, you can indicate which set of dates you would like to be considered for, or both. Again, applications are due on August 9th, so you still have a couple of weeks to apply for this program should you choose to. We anticipate that the application should take about 30 minutes to an hour. A lot of it is just telling us a little bit about yourself. So some personal information, who you are, where you go to school. We'll also look for school and academic information. Explore Bowdoin is primarily focused upon rising seniors or students who are looking to enter college in the next cycle. So that would be fall of 2024. And so if you do apply and you just completed your junior year in high school, we do need a complete transcript through your junior year. So make sure that you have that in hand. We will ask you to upload it. You are welcome, of course, to self-report it. So we do need that complete transcript though through your most recent school year. There is one short answer prompt, about 250 words, and that is the same as one of the supplements on our application. You can actually, if you open the application, you can actually see that question if you'd like to draft it before you fill out the rest of the application. We find that a lot of folks do that. And it is test optional. Bowdoin College, for entry to first year admissions, we have been test optional since 1969. So we have well over 50 years of experience being test optional. And of course that extends to Explore Bowdoin. So you do not need to submit SAT or ACT testing as consideration for Explore Bowdoin, although of course you are welcome to, you are not required to. You also have the opportunity to share AP scores if you would like, or other testing if you would like to share it, but you do not need to submit any standardized testing for consideration. And all of your application materials must be submitted by the deadline. So if you filled out the application, you'll see that there is an option to submit your transcripts later, which is totally fine. Maybe you need to get your hands on it. Maybe you need to log into your portal or get an email copy. But we do need to receive your application materials by the deadline. So make sure that if you fill out the application now, but you're meaning to upload the transcript later, that you actually do go back and do that by August 9th. And decisions will be released by the end of August. So about 2 or 3 weeks after that August 9th deadline, you will receive a decision on your candidacy for Explore Bowdoin and whether or not you've been accepted. And then, of course, you would get more information about that travel process. The last slide that I want to leave you with, and then I see some questions have already come in. This is a poem called The Offer of the College. This is a really beautiful piece of writing. That's the theme of our other supplement, should you choose to apply to us for first year admission. It's a really lovely piece of writing, and we ask students often to choose a line from it and to reflect upon it in their own home and community. And we always just put it at the end of our presentations because it's a really lovely piece of writing that often we think encapsulates what we hope students walk away from their Bowdoin experience with. So with that, I am going to stop sharing. I see that there are some questions already in the chat, so I'm very happy to start answering those. And then as you have questions, please do feel free, of course, to go ahead and drop them in the Q&A. All right, let me see. There's a question here that just asks, does Bowdoin have interdisciplinary studies? Absolutely. I would say that that's a hallmark of a liberal arts curriculum. And that's something that's really important to us, is regardless of whether or not you mean for your classes to be interdisciplinary, they are by nature interdisciplinary. One of the hallmarks of a liberal arts education is really in talking about how no subjects here really exist within a vacuum. So absolutely. That is something that's really, really important with us. All right, other questions? All right, so there is a question here that we get here every year. Does getting accepted to Explore Bowdoin mean that you're accepted to the college? And if you don't get accepted, are you still eligible to apply to the college? This is a really, really important distinction. Getting accepted to I should say, Explore Bowdoin is a completely independent round of first-year admission. Getting accepted to Explore Bowdoin does not mean that you are guaranteed acceptance to the college, but what it does mean is that based on the application materials you submitted, we see potential for you as a Bowdoin student, and we see a lot of things that we like. Part of the reason why there's an application process and not just sort of a free-for-all, aside from questions like space and financial, is that it's really important to us that the students that we invite on the program do look like they would be a really good fit for our community for a number of reasons. This is why we ask for your transcript. This is why we ask for a writing sample. We really want to get a sense of who you are as a student, who you are as a person, and what you could bring to the Bowdoin community. And so while you're not guaranteed an acceptance to the college, what we are saying is we see a lot of potential here for you to join our community. However, every year there are students that we turn away from Explore Bowdoin who do go on to have successful applications to enter Bowdoin as a first year, and they just weren't admitted onto Explore Bowdoin. The simple reason for this is because of space. We have a ton of applicants for Explore Bowdoin, but we're limited by things like plane tickets and dorm rooms for you to stay in. And so not getting accepted to Explore Bowdoin doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a good fit for us, but being accepted means that there's a really great chance that we see a lot of potential in your process if you were to apply to us. All right. Other questions. How many students attend Explore Bowdoin? So across the two rounds, we bring about 60 to 70 students per round. So it's about 120 to 140 students will come out and visit Bowdoin every fall as part of this program. There's a question here about let me see. There's a lot of questions about just transcripts in general. I just see a lot of like unofficial, official, how do I do this? Your transcript, however you have received it, you are welcome to submit to us. So if you can log into an online portal and get your grades, if your school mails a copy of your transcript home to you, those are acceptable forms. So you can always just either get a PDF of your transcript off of your online portal or take a picture of the transcript that you have in your home and you may send it to us. So that's an unofficial transcript. Of course, if you're applying for first year admission, we would require that your transcripts come for your schools. But for the process of Explore Bowdoin, you are welcome to submit your own transcripts. So any copies of your transcripts that you have can absolutely be the ones that you submit. Here's a question of how does Bowdoin support first-gen low-income students? So a lot of students who come on Explore Bowdoin do identify as first generation to college students or low income students. And this is something that's really, really important to us in terms of not just bringing you here to see if you can see the college, but also getting a sense of what support is available. The center that I would point to is a center called Thrive. Thrive is located in the center of campus behind, in the back of the chapel. And Thrive is an organization that's really, really focused on making sure that students have the academic and social and personal supports that they may need. So Thrive is really focused on that first generation to college experience and making sure that students are able to transition here, and whether that means attending our summer bridge program called the Jeffrey Canada Scholars Program, or working with you on getting extra mentorship and extra academic advising to make sure that you feel secure in those decisions that you're making. Thrive oversees all of it. Thrive also helps students financially in terms of things like a winter coat fund and making sure that students have the clothes that they need to be here successfully, as well as really making sure that we have those mentorship and support systems built in place. They have periodic meetings, and students in Thrive really do get the extra support of transition to the US. Or not to the US, to college rather. Is there a student-run newspaper, magazine, or literary journal? Absolutely, there are all three. So we do have a student-run newspaper, it's called the Bowdoin Orient. We have a student-run literary magazine, it's called the Bowdoin Quill. And we do have a literary journal that students will submit reviewed works to. I see a lot of questions coming in that are just generically about Bowdoin, and I want to make sure that I'm actually answering questions about Explore Bowdoin. So I'll answer some sort of general questions as I see them, but I am looking just for some information, or I am looking for questions that will pertain specifically to Explore Bowdoin. I'm very happy if we have time at the end to continue to answer general questions about Bowdoin, but I want to make sure that folks who are here to hear about EB do get that information. There is a question here about whether Bowdoin meets full need, and this is something that's important for a lot of our students who are coming on Explore Bowdoin. Many of our students will be applying for financial aid, and so I just want to emphasize that Bowdoin is a school that meets 100% of demonstrated need with no loans packaged within that. And so what that means is when you apply for admission and when you apply for financial aid, you are when we look at those documents, we only determine how much your family can be expected to contribute, and then that remaining gap is filled fully with Bowdoin grants and with no loans. So we fully mean for our students to be graduating without loans. We do not ask our students to commit to taking loans. We simply fill that gap with Bowdoin grants. We are need blind in our general admissions process, and that means that your family or household's ability to fund a Bowdoin education will never ever negatively impact your outcome. And we are need blind across the board. So we are need blind for both domestic students and international students. All right, what does lodging look like during the fly-in program? The places that you stay, we will actually have you hosted by current students. A lot of students will sleep on couches or on the floor of those dorm rooms. That does sound uncomfortable, but actually for our students, a lot of students talk about this as being their favorite part of that program. And the reason why we do this is because, again, Explore is really meant for you to explore the college and see whether this experience is something that you want. And so we want to put you in rooms with current students to talk to them about what their experiences are like here, what their transition to Bowdoin was like, what their experience of going to class is like. These are all pieces that are really important for us. And so that's something that we really emphasize as part of the program. And so that's where students will stay, is you'll stay in dorm rooms with current students. Does Explore Bowdoin simply pay for travel expenses or also arrange travel? We fully arrange your travel. So if you are accepted, we will ask you where you are traveling from, and we will make those travel arrangements for you and basically send you a plane ticket or a train ticket. You wouldn't make your own arrangements. We would make those arrangements for you on your behalf. Let me see. Let me take, will Explore Bowdoin candidates also explore and experience the clubs of campus? Yes, absolutely. So while you're here for these full 2 days, during the day, you're having the opportunity, of course, to eat in our dining halls and go to classes. But then at night, our clubs will actually all be open to students. And so club meetings will often convene, and then you are welcome to attend those. We print a program for you actually of all of the opportunities that you have. And so often our Women of Color Coalition will host an event, our board games clubs will host an event. Other clubs that are meeting, there are sometimes a cappella concerts and some really fun opportunities. And so yes, while you are here, actually a lot of the programming that we send you to is programming that's already happening with current students. We try not to have a ton of events that are only Explore Bowdoin students. A lot of our programming is meant for you to be meeting Bowdoin students while you're here. Is the program only for students, or can we bring a guardian? The program is designed only to be for students, and that is simply because you're staying in the dorm rooms, because you're eating in the dining halls, that's who we have space for. And so the program really is designed only for students. Don't worry if you've never traveled before. We have a lot of students who come on Explore who have never traveled alone before. We'll work with you through it. We'll talk to you about how to do travel, how to be safe, and then of course we would pick you up at the airport on the other end and bring you to campus. Will we be able to experience mock classes at Explore Bowdoin? You will not experience mock classes because you will experience real classes. During Explore Bowdoin, real classes are happening. So what we would do is we would print you a list of classes that are happening during your visit here, and you would just go ahead and attend, again, alongside Bowdoin students who actually go here and attend those classes. Of course, we ask you to be respectful of the learning that's taking place in the classroom, but we don't have mock classes. Students simply go alongside to real classes. Let me take a look. So what food is provided in the dining hall? We have a ton of dining options. We have 2 dining halls here on campus. Depending on how much you've Googled us, you might know or have heard that we have some of the best campus food in the country. We do have some of the best campus food, and there are a lot of really, really great options in the dining hall. We are extremely vegetarian and vegan friendly. There's also a gluten-free fridge. We're really, really explicit about allergens in our food, both for things like nuts and shellfish, but also gluten. And so there are over 2,000 students, or about 2,000 students who go here. So just know that we are able to accommodate a lot of food at the dining hall. The best way to figure out what we offer at the dining hall is actually that our dining menus are posted online every day. And so you can actually just go ahead and Google Bowdoin dining menu and you will get a sense of what some of those options are. Here's a question. During Explore Bowdoin, will the students also explore a bit of the surrounding community? Absolutely. We do have field trips into Maine. We love Maine. We find Maine to be a really, really important component of what makes us a special place and a special place for students to be. And so we will have field trips on both Thursday and Friday that will take you into the surrounding community. One of those field trips will go to Bowdoin's own Coastal Study Center, which is 120 acres of land that we own about 20 minutes south of campus. It's directly on the Gulf of Maine. It's directly on the Atlantic Ocean. It's where a lot of the research that we do takes place. And so you can actually take a field trip down there. We'll take you down there. There are some beautiful hiking trails. It's also where our sailing team practices, but we also did a $10 million renovation down there a couple of years ago. And so there's brand new wet labs and dry labs. We will also have the opportunity to go to a state park, and that state park is also a really, really beautiful location directly on the water. And so students do get to experience a little bit of what Maine could feel like. All right. If we don't get accepted to the September date, can we reapply for the October date? No. So the application is one application and you can apply for either date or both dates. You do not reapply. You only apply once, and then we either admit you to one of the dates or we don't. Do we get to choose the classes we attend during Explore Bowdoin? Absolutely. Again, we would print you a class list, and then on that class list, every professor that's on there has been asked whether students can visit their classes, and then you would choose based on that list what classes you would like to attend. Yeah, so how long is the program? So both programs start on Thursday. So generally students would come in on Thursday in the morning or afternoon. For those of you who are calling in from the West Coast or from a place like Hawaii, you would likely take a red eye. So you will most likely leave your home on Wednesday night and then arrive on Thursday. And so when you arrive on Thursday, you hit the ground running. You may have your interview, you may be meeting with student aid folks, you may be attending classes, you may be taking a tour, and then that evening we would welcome you to campus formally, and then you would meet up with your student hosts. And then all day Friday is field trips. Again, field trips, class visits, appointments. You'll be running around, you'll be meeting lots of new people. And then you would actually depart Bowdoin on Saturday morning. So you have about 2 days on campus to get that sense. There's a question here about there's actually a couple of questions about candidacy for Explore Bowdoin and who qualifies as first generation or low income. For us, what we always say is that Explore Bowdoin is intended for students who wouldn't otherwise have the means or opportunity to visit Bowdoin. And so this is why we take things like proximity into account, and we take things like household income into account, because it's really important to us that our students who are visiting us wouldn't otherwise have been able to come to campus. So this means that there isn't a cutoff. There's no like income cutoff. There's no particular cutoff in that experience, but Explore Bowdoin is really meant to prioritize visits for students who wouldn't otherwise be able to visit campus. There are some questions about who are Explore Bowdoin staff. It's admissions staff. So admissions staff will largely be with you. And then of course, professors will be teaching the classes that you're visiting. What is the weather like around that time of year? It's fall in Maine, which actually means that it's my favorite season. It's absolutely beautiful. The leaves are changing color, but it also means that it can be unpredictable. There are some days that will be 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and there are some days that will be 80 degrees Fahrenheit in September. And so we always advise our students to pack layers. When you come, like jeans and t-shirts alongside like sweatshirts will often serve you really well. And it does in the fall actually really cool down at night. And so even though it could hit 70 or 80 during the day, at night it would definitely cool down to about 50 or 60. And so for our students who do attend, I really recommend packing layers. There's a couple of questions here about updating the dates that you apply to. Yes, if you have any changes that you would like to make to your application, you may email us. That email address is explore@bowdoin.edu. I'm going to drop it here in the chat. You can go ahead and actually email us there with any updates to your application. Is the interview the day that we arrive or part of Explore Bowdoin? So yeah, so your interview, if you come to Explore Bowdoin, would be on Thursday or Friday. You are, we will actually schedule that for you. If you've already had an interview, you don't need to interview again. But if you are coming to campus, it would either be the day that you arrive or the day after. If we're coming from somewhere a little closer like New York, would we be expected to handle our own transportation? No, we handle the transportation for every single person that we invite on the program. All right. So there are a ton of questions here, but I want to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on the time. I know that this was billed as a half an hour, and so if you have to hop off, that's totally fine. I'll stay on and answer some more questions, but I want to make sure that you all do what you need to do. All right. I see a lot of questions about the interview. Do not stress out about the interview. This is generally about interviews overall. Bowdoin does offer interviews as part of our first year application process. Generally, they are optional for our Explore Bowdoin attendees. Because you're here and on campus, we offer them to you honestly as a benefit of being here. We really like in-person interviews, and so it's part of the program when you join. You do not have to be dressed formally. If you were invited on the program, we would actually do an entire seminar about what to expect for your interview. But generally, because I see a lot of questions about interviews, and many of you may interview regardless of whether you are accepted on Explore Bowdoin, you can actually go on our website right now and request a virtual interview or an in-person interview if you were to come visit us otherwise outside of Explore Bowdoin. In the fall, you can have the opportunity to interview with an alum in your area, so you do not need to be an Explore Bowdoin attendee to request and have an interview. You don't need to dress formally. Interviews are just a really nice part of the admissions process that tells a little bit more about yourself that we might not glean inside of your first year admission otherwise. There's a question here about how Explore Bowdoin may interact with the QuestBridge application process. So the first Explore Bowdoin, absolutely, you can still, of course, choose to rank Bowdoin on the QuestBridge application process. But the second Explore Bowdoin comes up a little bit close. And so if that's something that's really important to you, make sure that we know about it. Make sure that you let us know that you're applying through QuestBridge. You can do that either by emailing us at explore@bowdoin.edu or writing about it in your application. But you will probably want to prioritize that first date if you are choosing to rank us as a QuestBridge school. And during Explore, there is a session with Questbridge students about Questbridge on campus. So you can meet some Questbridge students here on campus as well. All right, let me see. So I think most of the questions that I have left are generally about Bowdoin overall, and I actually am going to go ahead and encourage folks, if you have questions that I wasn't able to answer about admissions or Bowdoin overall, please do email your questions to us at admissions@bowdoin.edu. There's a lot in here that I'm unable to answer. There's tons of unanswered questions that are just generally about Bowdoin, and I want to make sure that you get your questions answered, but I want to make sure that I respect this time for Explore Bowdoin program specifically. There's a question here that asks if Explore Bowdoin is first come, first serve. It is not first come, first serve. It is not a rolling decision deadline. And so if you apply by August 9th, your application will be considered, right? We will consider your application all at once, and then decisions will come out 2 or 3 weeks after that August 9th deadline. So it is not first come, first serve. And even though it's not first come, first serve, I do encourage you to think about filling out your Explore Bowdoin applications before August 9th. Of course, you can apply on August 9th. It's totally fine. The application only takes about half an hour to an hour. But if you're sitting here, you are excited by this, it's something you want to do, you're on summer break, I really encourage you to just go ahead and get it out of the way. It doesn't give you priority or anything. It makes our lives a little bit easier when we don't have, you know, tons and tons and tons of apps flooding through the door on August 9th. But of course, we'll always evaluate them. But I encourage you, you're still here. You have a couple of weeks left. Just go ahead and fill it out sometime that you have the next few weeks. What airline do we, or what airport do we fly into? So most students that we bring on Explore Bowdoin, if you are flying, we will fly you to the Portland Jetport or to Boston Logan, and then you would take a bus up where we would pick you up. So most students will come to the Portland Jetport. Again, it's about half an hour or 45 minutes south of here, depending on traffic. And then we would, of course, pick you up at the airport and bring you to campus. All right. It is about 8:45 p.m. on the East Coast, and so I want to make sure that I'm able to wrap this up. Again, you see those 2 email addresses in the chat. I would emphasize that you should go ahead and take advantage of those. Again, when do Explore Bowdoin results come out? They will come out 2 or 3 weeks following August 9th. And if you've already done a virtual interview, you would not do another in-person interview. You only do 1 admissions interview. So if you've already done your virtual interview, of course, you are still eligible to come to Explore Bowdoin, but you just wouldn't do another interview. If we didn't get to your question, again, please use those email addresses. I know that there's a ton of questions that people have that I didn't get to, so do email us on those email addresses. And if you have anything that you need to update about your Explore application, use that explore@bowdoin.edu email. And you have questions generally about admissions, again, you can email us at admissions@bowdoin.edu, and those folks will absolutely be able to answer your questions a lot faster than I can than just reading them. So please, please, please go ahead and email us. I want to make sure that folks who asked questions do get those answered. So please feel free to email us. Otherwise, I know that a lot of you are calling in from a different time zone than I am. Thank you for taking some of your morning, afternoon, or evening to chat. And have a lovely, lovely remainder of your day. For those of you who are joining me from the East Coast, have a good evening. Take care.